Hey everyone, welcome to PunkCast. My name is William Maxwell. I'm a student of Web3 and the owner of Punk5807. CryptoPunks are 10,000 uniquely generated characters stored permanently on the Ethereum blockchain. No punk is the same. This is a show dedicated to celebrating the punks behind the punk. My hope for this podcast is that we capture the essence of the punk culture, elevate the brand and the individual behind the punk. One last thing. Projects discussed on the show is not financial advice. Crypto and NFTs are a volatile and risky asset class. Please always do your own research. Other than that, let's go. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of PunkCast. Today we're back with Punk5807. He's got 3 attributes: thin mohawk hair, regular shades, and mole. In real life, he's a serial entrepreneur, having founded a blockchain-based tech company called Pellar and about to launch a new Ethereum layer 2 called LightLink. Please welcome a good friend and golfing buddy, Roy Hui, to the show. Roy, how are you, man?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on the show, Max. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, finally good to have a chat with you, man, because I think every single time we've caught up in the past through events in golf, I don't think we've actually gone deeply into your backstory, but I mean, you and I have got a lot of things in common besides playing golf, albeit I'm pretty bad at it. But you know, we both went to the same university, and you're married. Our friends, actually, my friend's sister, right? So, which is like sort of a very small world when it comes to Melbourne in the space, anyway. But yeah, so. Well, welcome to PunkCast, Roy. And sorry to disturb you on your beautiful holiday in Hawaii. Maybe we could just kick off the conversation with, about you and your background. Like, tell us about that, because I'd love to sort of hear this since you're sort of from Melbourne as well.
Yeah, sure thing. Firstly, computer science background. I'll call it background as opposed to degree because it's all encompassing, right? Like, I think when I was very little, my mother said to me, smart people sweep up the floor in a certain method, and they make sure they cover every single corner and they cover the entire room. So that really intrigued me as a comment. I don't know what she meant by it. Probably asked me to mop up the floor, right? Or sweep the floor. But that comment was really interesting because it almost talked about optimization of the algorithm being efficient in what you do, and really stayed with me to this day, right? And that's why I said computer science as something that I strongly resonate to, because it's all about engineering, efficiency, optimize for the best outcome. And that stayed with me for my entire career. It's been a fairly long career. Started graduated in 2001, and had a corporate job in the telco, the telco in Australia, and started my entrepreneurial journey at 2005. Created a video games social network business, just like many entrepreneurs doing tech. Gravitate around video games, doing something that they like, but eventually it turned out to be really hard to make money. We did heaps of different deals with telcos in the US and media companies, but it was fairly difficult, and pivoted that to a e-commerce journey, building marketplaces within Australia for Census back then, and that was the media company in Australia, along with Australia Post, built out a lot of their first.
Census was the job-seeking company, wasn't it? Was it Census?
There were a lot of different properties like Yellow Pages, White Pages, Trading Post, and
that's right.
we built a few different digital destinations like Car Showroom, which I think is still around. We built Trading Post communities, and we licensed a automobile social network to Census. So done a lot of really interesting things there.
I mean, just you talking alone. Obviously, I'm from Melbourne as well. Just brings back a lot of memories, right? Because I think you talk about yellow pages and stuff. It just reminds me of that ad, GOGGO. How I was looking up that go thing, but also at the same time, I was working in an office right next door on Lonsdale Street on at the BHP building. So I was working at Deloitte there. I think you guys were right next door on Lonsdale at the time, right?
Yeah, exactly. We were licensing solutions into sensors. So we would go there either to deliver a product or sign a contract, which has been a really interesting journey. I mean, building Web 2 on the back end of early 2000s, it wasn't easy. It was essentially before the popularization of Facebook and telling large Web 1 companies that the future of the internet is all about read and write. Not only that you go and consume information, you can contribute information. You can have a soapbox and talk about the meal that you've had, upload the photo that you've taken of the meal that you've had, and then you rate the restaurant, right? So that was a revelation to a company that was all about one-way publishing. It was all about classifieds in print, or getting people to subscribe to an entry in Yellow Pages. So back then, bringing innovation in the space was very different and difficult. We built a lot of the tech from ground up, and interesting times, and learned a lot definitely, which also applies in the context of Web3.
Yeah, amazing. That you really kicked off at a really prime time, right? Because that was the real genesis when a lot of things were moving digital. Well, I think we're moving from, yeah, as you sort of say, yellow pages to digital and everything else, and you just sort of caught that sort of sweet spot. So, what was your role there? Were you actually building, like, you actually literally coding and stuff like that for Census at the
Yeah,
time?
we built these online communities, and that sort of meant you register with your email, you create a password, you create a user profile, and you can upload content. And that content could be a review of the car that you drove, participate in a conversation about the latest Commodore, or generate a wallpaper of the pictures of Ford Falcons and Commodores that other people have uploaded. So, and we built a lot of that tech from ground up. But now you have frameworks that you operate with, and
Ro-
you, yeah.
Roy, you might have to explain what a Commodore and a Falcon is. I'm not sure many people on the call.
It's like the Ford Mustang or a Toyota Supra equivalent. I probably offended like everyone around the globe with that comment.
It's the local Australian cars, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, muscle
Man.
cars predominantly. Yeah. I actually attempted to start a ISP back in uni. So the entrepreneurial journey goes way back, and it's predominantly engineering based.
What do you mean by an ISP? Like, how would you even do that?
Back then, you still have to buy a modem, hook it up to a telephone line, and engaging a company that's renting lines from the local telco, and subscribe to a plan, and connect your modem to and instruct your modem to dial to a number, and get internet bandwidth from that capability. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've came a
Yeah,
long way.
that was crazy. I was getting in shit a lot of the times from my sisters because I kept clogging up the telephone lines with
Exactly,
the internet, right? So
exactly.
that's old school. So just going back a little bit further, Roy. What of all the things you could have studied, why did you choose computer science? I know you sort of spoke about that story with your mother and sweeping stuff like that, but like, was there something that you were just interested in, math and engineering, that you just had a natural gift for that you really enjoyed? Like, what was it about computer science that drew you to that?
Yeah, interesting question. Um, it also talks about the people that we hire in LightLink at Pellar. Um, when so I grew up in the 80s, and electronics were new things in the household. And when we get a hi-fi back then, a very large box with a lot of different buttons and a lot of different functions, from radio to cassette to, records and to all of those things, I would be so inquisitive, so curious about technology, and I will have to press every single button and work out every single combination of the button and the meaning of every single symbol on the interface, right? Like plastic interface in front of you. And I had this natural curiosity, maybe through evolution or whatever it is, that it made me who I am in terms of love technology, love to understand how exactly they work, all the way from binary to logic gates to assembly code to other abstraction of computer programming. And I thought it's the most beautiful description of our evolution. We made wheels, right? And then we added up numbers to create math, and the invention of binary, and how you have a calculator in your head, and that's logic gates. There's only three logic gates. There's the AND gate, OR gate, and NOR gate. And with these logic gates, you can create a calculator, and you can draw that diagram on a piece of paper, and that piece of mathematic solves every single piece of numeric puzzle there is in the whole world before it. And you're holding it in your hand. You can draw it on a piece of calculator. It's just absolutely amazing. And that natural curiosity, inquisitiveness, are the people that I want to surround myself with. And when you look at all of our engineers, and they're all people who took apart the alarm clock when they were kids. And whether if they can put it back or not, that's a different story. But that natural curiosity in terms of engineering, it's really beautiful.
Amazing. And in some ways, I think it sort of ties nicely into a little bit of the punk culture in the sense that everyone's got a sense of curiosity to really explore this space and sort of venture into this weird internet sort of corner of the world as well. And so I think what you're sort of saying then describing probably resonates with a lot of punks that are sort of listening. Um, and so okay, so you had a really strong sense of curiosity, pulling things apart, and then that sort of did your computer science degree, worked at Telstra, moved into engineering roles at Census, and then what was next? Like you were in the prime sort of Web 2 sort of growth phase, but what was next for Roy?
Yeah. We built a online community. It turned into a social network, and worked out that we couldn't make much money from this exercise. So we built a e-commerce company. We're licensing e-commerce technology to many larger enterprise customers, and then that evolved into a cross-border e-commerce company, where we took brands around the world, Australia, New Zealand, the UK, Canada, into Asia, predominantly into China via Alibaba. And that was about 2015.
Wow. And so just before we tack onto the e-commerce piece, when you sort of said that you tried building online communities, but that didn't work. What do you mean by that?
It worked really well. There were a lot of different people joining and participating, and were shaping culture with our moderators. And this is actually when I first came across Bitcoin in 2012, because you're in tech, you're curious, you're inquisitive, you dabble in all kinds of different technologies, and there comes along a new technology called Bitcoin, and what is this? Let's give it a go. It's magic internet money. So I bought some Bitcoins on Mt. Gox, and I was using it as a incentive for our moderators on the social network that we were building. So it was pretty funny. One of the guys, so I think I posted in one of the comments that I missed out a couple of seasons of Simpsons. So he burnt some DVDs and sent the DVDs to me, right? So as a gesture of thank you, I sent him like 2 Bitcoins or something just for fun because it was fairly cheap at the time.
Expensive DVDs.
Yeah. So years later, I went back to Hayden and go, hey, dude, what happened to the Bitcoins? He goes, I had no idea what they were. I didn't know what to do with it. I don't have them anymore. Pretty funny.
Right.
Yeah.
What had to just to understand as well, what kind of community was that? Was that for the classifieds business at
Oh,
Census or?
yeah, we did do that, but that was the biggest ones were around video games. It quickly became the largest in Australia, and we're doing syndication with non-MSN, Yahoo 7, and a variety of different telcos in the US.
So what was that community like? Was that for like, Xbox or PSP players or mostly PC gamers just to hang out and talk about games and
E-
stuff like that? Were they
Exactly
basically
right.
online forums or
Yeah,
online
yeah, yeah,
forums at the
online
time?
forums.
Yeah, okay.
But we
Yeah.
built these, galleries and ability to favorite the games that you want to play. We're talking to advertisers. We built out profiles. We built out, following other people and created communities where people can play games together. One of the proudest moment actually is so the site was called mmgn.com. And we had a Call of Duty tournament, so people had the clan tags, right? MMG has the clan tag. So I got invited by random to join the tournament while playing this latest Call of Duty. And when I joined, everybody had these MMGN clan tags in front of their handle. And there were, I don't know, like 32 people on the server. And they go, oh my God, Boss is here and Roy's here. And that was,
and
it
Red
was really
Boss.
cool. Yeah, it was really cool to experience community in the forefront of it. We built this community. We encourage people to exhibit positive behavior, and we built all of these tools, and we were responding to the things that people wanted. And I was fairly quiet, behind the scenes, building the tech, and but still joining a server full of people from the community and playing Call of Duty together. That was really cool.
That is cool. But were you ever using Merc and ICQ during those days as well, like in the early days?
Man,
Were
that
you
was
heavy?
the high school days. Yeah, yeah.
even,
ASL.
even further. Yes,
Yeah,
that's right. Age segregation. I think that's kind of creepy now if we said it. Wow,
yeah.
what a blast. And then so when did you kick off Pellar? Like, so
Right.
there was like you had an extend on online communities. You dabbled with a little bit of Bitcoin then.
Yeah.
When did you sort of kick off Pellar?
Yeah. So our e-commerce journey went quite well, and we had Royal Mail in the UK helping us to grow around the world, and we exited that company around 2017. Um, that's when friends of mine were dabbling in crypto and trying to launch tokens in the first ICO boom, and said, "Hey, Roy, come and help us out and see if you can build a capability for us." So we said, why not? How hard can it be, right? Roll up our sleeves and started experimenting with the technology. I've always been super fascinated with how blockchains are as a technology. I viewed it as an evolution to many of the things that we're doing, right? Like we saw the boom of internet, we saw the creation of Web 2, and we saw the rise of mobile computing, apps and on iPhones and things like that. And I've always thought that's the next wave. Blockchain as a fundamental shift of our humanity in terms of creating permanent records of everything around us. And back in 2017, I thought it would be the future of money, the future of record keeping. So whether if it's your license or birth records or your death records or property rights would all be on blockchain. In a way, that became true. In a way, it hasn't.
Super cool. And then, so you came into that 2017 ICO boom. Did you build anything like any tokens or launch any tokens or experiment with that at the time, or rather not
Heaps of
say?
them. Rather not say, but
Okay.
there are still videos of me on the stage talking about launching exchanges and how cool our technology bit. We've always been about picks and shovels, right? Like in terms of building the tech behind the scenes to power these businesses, and they were in payments and digital tokenization and exchanges and various other things. During the winter in 2019, we pivoted a lot into the enterprise world in terms of working with investment banks in tokenizing government bonds, using technology for loyalty points, and as well as trying to do education certification for major universities here in Australia. So yeah, fun times.
Nice. And then talk to us a little about LightLink. I know you're busy working on that with Dan Cube. If he's listening, shout out to Dan as well. Some exciting things that are sort of brewing for you guys. Like, so I guess what was the genesis of LightLink and what is LightLink?
Yeah. So over the past 6 years, building with Pellar, delivering over 50 different projects to all kinds of different projects in the space, right? From fungible to non fungible, from projects based in Ivory Coast to public transportation in South Africa to Oz Open digital tennis balls to building metaverse projects, right? Like all kinds of different things. We've came to these two consistent feedback. If you're using enterprise blockchain technology, it was disconnected to the rest of the public network. And that meant, you're operating silos. You're disconnected from global trade. You'd be like North Korea. You want to incorporate USDT, but you can't. You have to build these bridges and then all this collateral. And if you want to operate in DeFi, it was really difficult to do so. But enterprise blockchains provided these really positive attributes, and that was predictability, high throughput, high performance. And on the other side, with these public blockchain projects that we were working on, they were beautiful in a way that it really shapes the future of finance, of digital ownership, and it even, in a way, created new mediums for artists to express themselves on, right? But they were tremendously expensive to operate on. During the peaks of 21, we were paying hundreds of dollars to mint an NFT, and they were really slow. When we built games on Polygon, when we had a couple of hundred concurrent users on the system playing this game, the game will break because it just didn't have the capacity to support the network that needed. So we had these two polar sides of the equation, and the concept of layer twos came around. I felt it was something in the middle, that it had the predictability and capacity of enterprise blockchains, but you had the interoperability, the openness, the permissionless, the public accessibility of layer one blockchains. And it was pretty cool. So Pellar was partly acquired by a very large conglomerate in Asia. And we're working on a few really interesting projects there, from tokenizing movie properties to building very large scale metaverses. And I saw the future being layer twos. Then this was late 2021. And we thought, why don't we build it? The knowledge is out there. We have all the elements for success. We have a fantastic team. We have all these projects under our belt. We have a awesome network, and we have all the knowledge out there. Let's give it a go, right? And let's take all of our learnings and build something new, as well as let's stick to the um, protocols, the same language. So make the barrier to entry really low, and let's give the layer two access a go. And it's LightLink. It's an EVM layer two. It has a lot of similar characteristics to many other layer twos out there, but it also has a key characteristic, which is a gasless enterprise mode. And that's pretty cool because I think the future of blockchain requires a lot more enterprise applications and adoption, as well as high scalability for newbies to enter into the space.
Can you explain that a little bit more? Like, what does it mean by gasless enterprise mode? So, like,
Okay, sure. Um, I don't want to plug myself too
it, it,
much.
it,
Yeah,
no. Yeah, go ahead.
but it's observational in the industry, right? So gas prices are decreasing, right? So layer ones probably in a matter of hundreds of dollars to tens of dollars or single digits these days, through blobs or 1551 or many protocol upgrades. We try to reduce the cost of operating on the layer one environment. But the rise of layer two is interesting new dynamic into this equation because we no longer need all of the efficiencies on layer one. We can do some compute and come back to layer one, and we see a decrease of costs. So if a cost is trending towards zero, so from $100 to $10 to $1 to 10 cents to 1 cent, why not make it zero, right? So it's a natural progression. So we're just trying to front run this exercise by saying, if it will end up zero, let's make it zero from ground up. How do we engineer the technology so when you interact with a smart contract, it's gasless? So, for example, when you send USDT, you need a native token for that transaction to happen, right? You But that doesn't map to the real world. You go to a coffee shop, you pay for a coffee. You don't need MasterCard coins for that transaction to happen with MasterCard. You just pay, $5 or however it is for a coffee these days and pay a transaction fee to MasterCard. But in this crypto world, you have to acquire a new token, the native token, whether if it's Matic or BNB or Ether. You have to KYC, AML, and acquire this token. And it's really difficult. Imagine if you're using for payments, for transportation, for ticketing, it just becomes a very uh, high barrier to entry for new participants, right? So if we want massive adoption, we have to remove the entry criteria entirely. And then if it's trending towards zero, why not make it zero? And on the other side, uh, it's the enterprise customers that are paying for the transactions. We're already seeing that through relays, through Gelato, through Biconomy, that and that's also something that I've heard over the past 6 years. CTOs and CEOs are asking me, how much does it cost to run our transaction in the scale of hundreds of thousands, 6 months from now? And that's a question I can't answer because it's a math problem between supply and demand as well as the price of native token. And it's really difficult to forecast. So we're trying to
So,
introduce a
so
solution.
Roy, help me try and understand this, right? So, like, my understanding of basically, I'm not a super tech person, but like, blockchains sell block space, and the revenue or the gas fees generated from that is basically the revenue for the blockchain, right? So that's how much revenue sort of accrue. In this instance, you're basically setting the gas to zero, so there is no revenue as such. But you're sort of saying that there might be revenue opportunities direct from the companies. Are you charging companies that will pay for
Exactly.
those transactions?
Yeah,
Wow.
so
Okay.
someone has to pay for the block space. And if it's not the user, it's the companies that are paying for the block space. In the case of USDT, Tether could subsidize every single transaction. In the case of Uniswap can subsidize every single transaction. So your USDT to wrapped BTC could be a direct transfer, and Uniswap could take a clip of that transaction as opposed to, a third currency entering into the equation.
Gotcha. And so this would be like a use case for enterprises that want a closed system, but using a public network for security and all those other bits and pieces, but still relatively keep it closed, right?
No, actually, that's where we were operating previously. And all of these, in my opinion, enterprise blockchain experiments have failed because those ecosystems were too closed. So we went with something drastically radical in terms of what does enterprise look like on the public layer two. So we would encourage them to deploy tokens as ERC20 contracts, and if you don't want it to be interoperable to DEXs, add a block in the equation. But every single smart contract on the network is public, it's transparent, and composable.
That's super fascinating. Yeah, I didn't sort of realize it was that instance where you'd be charging the enterprises for the space. Um, that's super cool. And I think as you were sort of talking as well, there was a quote that I think it was maybe 6529 came out, and he sort of said, "Look, you can build you can build decentralized applications on decentralized platforms, but you can't build decentralized applications on centralized platforms." And I think that's where you know government or enterprise sort of blockchain sort of fail, right? I mean, there's almost like no network utility out of it, and I think the value is in the network, right? So when
Yeah,
you basically
but
close
you
that
can
off,
actually do it the other way. You can build centralized application on decentralized networks.
absolutely, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. Super fascinating. Well, congrats on that, man, and looking forward to that sort of going live. So
Yeah.
how far are you away? Like, where are you guys at right now? Like in terms of progress
Yeah.
and
We're in mainnet. About 300,000 wallets. We've done 17 million transactions, process about 12,000 transactions every day. And we are TGE in next month. So exciting times.
exciting times, man. Man, I'm super pumped for you. Just one last question as well. Like, if you were to sort of summarize LightLink, in terms of your strategic positioning, because there's blockchains that focus on gaming or NFTs or as such. But like, do you have like a niche for LightLink? Have you sort of found like a niche for LightLink? Is it that enterprise sort of segment that you're talking about? Like, what's your niche? Do you think?
Yeah, I would say enterprise applications would be our niche. Due to the strategic relationship that we have with the CP Group in Asia, being one of the largest conglomerate in the space, we're doing a lot uh, with that parent company essentially, and they're one of the largest investor in LightLink. So, from a geographic perspective, we're doing a lot in Asia. We're keen to do more, and we're helping a lot of the enterprise customers to experiment on chain, but also providing a scalable platform for them to do more things in the future.
Amazing. Well, I'll definitely keep it a closer look, man, and looking forward to celebrating with you as you get closer to TGE. Switching gears back to NFTs a little bit. What was your first NFT? Because I know that we actually met through Proof and Moonbirds back in the day, right?
That's right. That's right.
Um, but what was your first NFT?
Um, it was a dead fella. Um,
Gotcha. Those green
Yeah,
ones.
yeah. They're really fascinating. Resonated through the whole zombie apocalypse, PFP identity elements, and it was fairly popular at the time. I heard it in the podcast somewhere. Probably proof back in the day when cameras were talking about different collections, and I just found it really fascinating.
Yeah. So did I. That is sort of left the space, but Um, because I know you were more predominantly coming in as a builder, and I actually do remember you also, correct me if I'm wrong, but you also did the, Australian Open,
Yeah,
tennis ball drops as well, right? That was you
yeah,
guys. Yeah,
yeah,
that was pretty cool. And innovative for that time as well, right? I think, you had that, I can't remember, there was some sort of, unique feature where wherever the ball sort of dropped, would the image sort of change or
yeah.
something like that?
Exactly
I can't
right.
remember now. But, oh,
Exactly
yeah,
right.
that's
It's
kinda
still
cool.
innovative today, actually. So firstly, I love the technology, and I think the technology has so much more applications than a simple JPEG. It, it's almost a new medium for people to experiment on, and I'm actually a little bit disappointed to see how little innovation came out of this space for the past, 2 to 3 years, and I definitely want to see more.
Yeah, absolutely. You and I both. But from a collecting side, so you came in through Deadfellas, and I think the founder, if I remember, Betty is also Australian um, as well. So perhaps you're sort of supporting that. But then, what was your next sort of foray? Because that would have been in what 2021, sort of mid-cycle 2021, and then what was your entry into CryptoPunks? Like, how did you hear about CryptoPunks, and when did you sort of get your first CryptoPunk?
Yeah. So from there, rabbit hole we went, right? Became a true DGen, as you would in this space, loving technology, loving what it represents. I really saw NFTs as um, the other side of the coin because fungible elements, it represents money, and NFTs represent assets and things, and you use money to buy things and you sell things for money. So it was the other side of the equation, and it made so much sense to me, right? And started aspire to and getting FOMO as you would in the heat of the market to all the top collections. So I really wanted, one of the top tens. Try to aspire to getting a punk one day. I started, I think, in terms of the top collections, getting a cool cat first, and then getting ape next, and then eventually got a punk. And it was a very big celebration. And uh, yeah, was fairly cool.
Yeah, he's a cool looking punk. It's Punk 5807. He's got the thin mohawk, regular shades, and mole. Of all the traits, like this would be an interesting one. Why were you sort of why did 5807 sort of speak to you? And what kind of traits were you sort of looking at? Talk us through the selection process when you were when you were picking up your punk.
Yeah, interesting. I think firstly, it's a representation of culture, a bit more rebellious, which in a way is how crypto started, right? Like, which is what all of this is all about. During the early days of Bitcoin, it was all about building a utopia. What does the future of finance look like without the intermediaries? And CryptoPunk, particularly the word punk, in a way, is a to me at least is a celebration of that rebellious nature. It's experimentation. Look at what Love Labs did back when, right? And it's engineering. It's taking apart the alarm clock. It's looking at the radio and working on every single element of the user interface. It's let's take this technology. Let's work on a very constrained medium because it's timeless. At the same time, it's not a JPEG. It's 24 pixels by 24 pixels, right? And it's romantic in that way. And um, I really wanted to encapsulate that rebelliousness with the traits that I was looking at. So that mohawk, that sunglasses, was my aspiration to that culture. What CryptoPunk
Yeah,
represents for me.
yeah, amazing. No, and it definitely signals punk. With a thin mohawk as well. So, very very well said. I didn't know you were such a romantic, Roy. I
I'm
would have
also
picked you
losing
for
my
one.
hair, so it could be that as well.
Could be that as well. Awesome. And if money wasn't an issue for you, do you have like a dream punk or traits that you would look at?
Yeah, I mean, we all want the most prized punks, right? But in a way, I like the 3D glasses, and I try to collect across different collections, whether if it's doodles or other PFP projects with the 3D glasses. And then that became a really expensive habit, so I had to give up that really quickly. So, to me, I think collecting the 3D glasses would be, personally, a achievement for me.
3Ds are cool. Um, and if you had to look into a punk community, would you have any favorite punks that you like tuning into? I guess it's an opportunity for you to shout out a few punks.
Yeah, I unfortunately I'm not so just being super busy. Haven't been so active in the community. I tried to join the original Love Labs Discord back then, and it was way too much information. But I did actually see a very similar punk on Twitter, and without them all. And I said, "What's up, bro?" And he says, "What's up, bro?" back, and that was super cool.
Do you remember who that was?
It was a
Is it?
crypto lawyer in the States.
Okay, okay, unknown, unknown. No, that's cool. And then how would you describe punk culture for you? I know you touched on it before, but I mean, just definitively, how would you describe culture for you?
Yeah, yeah. I think it means different things to different people, right? I was talking about the utopian feature, the rebellious nature. Um, it's all about technology and immutable, but in a way, one of the first early adopters of technology, right? And uh, it, like I really want to use it as my PFP, but I also don't want to signal, yeah, like I don't want to wear a very expensive watch or drive a really expensive car in the public. So in a way, I want to also be a little bit more subtle, and it's for myself, right? It's not to signal to other people.
Yeah, understood. Um, and what about V1 punks? Do you have a view on V1 punks at all?
Yeah. In my mind, I think there's only one version, and that's the version that you and I hold. Um, there are, because we're in the industry, I'm a builder in the space. Sometimes we get things wrong. And we, like back in 21, we created this on chain SVG collection. And because of the randomization on blockchains, I had to can that particular collection and do something else as a new collection. But it's an experimentation, and uh, it's not the version we gravitate towards. Um, so if we revive the original experimentation and say that is the original, it just doesn't feel right with me. Personal opinion,
Gotcha. No, and there's no right or wrong answer to this one. I think this one's going to be a question around for the ages, right? So
right?
I'm always super fascinated about it. What about the acquisition of punks from Yuga? How do you feel about Yuga?
Um, I think you evolve in ages. Um, People who are experimenting can't always experiment, and you've left your mark in the industry, in this world, being permanent and immutable. Uyghur is definitely a very large player in the industry, including the recent acquisition of Proof. Um, and I think we're super, super early in the days of this technology. And I hope in 24, 25, in the cycle that we're in, we will eventually rotate to NFTs, and we'll see a important more attention coming back to the space. But right now, I think we're in the lulls, and we need large players, important players, influential players to move the industry forward. And it's really difficult to move the industry forward as an individual, right? So if you have capital, if you have a great team, I encourage them and congratulate them on the success they've had and how they can move the industry forward.
Nice. And if you could pass on a message to the next owner of your Punk 5807, what would you like to say to them?
I will never sell my Punk, man. Yeah, there will be
Roy,
another owner.
we just had this conversation as well. Like, unless you've got to live forever, unless like you've got a way to live forever, it's
Yeah.
going to go to somebody, right?
I'm going to be in the metaverse. We're building the metaverse that I'm going to be in.
That's going to be scary.
We're going to play golf in the metaverse that we're going to be better than the golf that we play now, right?
Yeah, in real life, yeah. Or playing off scratch.
Yeah. And no, I think it's more of a personal achievement. I'm a collector, not a trader. And I would like to, own these things as long as I can. Now, all of these crypto assets will probably be passed to my kids, and hopefully they share the same romantic, feelings that we do. But if they decide to sell it, fine. Just look after it.
Look after it. Beautiful. Well said. Roy, thank you so much for your time, man. I know you're super busy building away. Would love to, take you out for another round of golf when I'm sort of back in Melbourne. But super excited for you and LightLink, and also for Dan as well. But any sort of final closing comments from you, and what's the best way for people to find you?
Yeah, thank you for having me on the podcast. You can reach me on X, Twitter, at my real name, Roy Hui. And the final remarks, don't start dreaming. Instead of waiting for other people to make things happen, do it yourself. Give it a go. Shake it up.
Amazing, Roy. Thank you so much. Let's hang out, man, and appreciate you sort of coming on for the show. Guys, that wraps up an episode for PunkCast for the week, and we'll be back next week with another amazing punk. Bye for now.